Welcome, today's story is full of drama. Like and subscribe to stay updated. Let's get started.
The sun was high above the ocean, its warmth brushing against my face as I kicked back in my beach chair, singing along to Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child O' Mine blaring from a radio beside me. I dug my toes deeper into the sand and took a long swallow from my frosty beer bottle, glancing over at Rachel, my fiancée. She was lounging in the chair next to me. The sunlight was so bright that her face was hard to make out, so I reached out to touch her. Suddenly, the smooth vocals of Axl Rose were replaced by an annoying buzzing. Turning the radio dial or adjusting the volume didn't stop it. It just grew louder. I snapped my eyes open to the cold darkness of my bedroom. I wasn't on the beach. I was in bed. The buzzing was coming from the damn beeper jumping around on the nightstand, its irritating noise drilling into my head. Rachel was beside me, still fast asleep, hogging all the covers as usual. Anyone who thinks women are the weaker sex has never tried to wrestle a blanket away from a sleeping woman on a cold night. I silenced the beeper and squinted at the number display. Damn, it's the TV station. The satellite dish de-icers must have failed again. Rachel rolled over without opening her eyes. Ethan, did my snoring wake you? Rachel snored loud enough most nights that it sounded like a tornado was about to hit. Sometimes I seriously thought about grabbing Toto and heading for the cellar. Not this time, Rachel. I showed her the beeper. Damn storm last night probably has the satellite dishes frozen up again. Let me call and then go warm up the car. If I am not back in 10 minutes, avenge my death. Rachel yawned before snuggling back into the warm covers. I'll wait 20 minutes, but I promise nothing. The clock display in the kitchen read 4:39 a.m. as I phoned in the number. A pleasant female voice answered on the second ring. Channel 8 weather. It was Megan, the weekend weather anchor. Megan, who was the talent for the weekend news, looked like your typical weather bunny. Young, brunette, with a tight body that had legions of male fans from college frats to senior homes tuning in to watch her deliver the weekend forecast. However, Megan was not your common TV bubble-headed teleprompter reading bimbo. She was a real, actual licensed meteorologist with a master's degree. It was common knowledge she was putting in her time doing weekend newscasts before moving to a bigger market and bigger bucks. Hey Megan, it's Ethan. Did you call me on this cold morning to come warm you up? Why, yes, Ethan, but only if you bring your hot bride-to-be along. If you're a good little boy, we may let you watch. Damn, Megan, I do not know if you are kidding or not. Megan was known for being confident and unapologetically herself. No one in the newsroom minded, and as long as she delivered strong ratings, the higher-ups didn't care. Megan had been working in the predominantly male TV industry for some time and could hold her own in a battle of words with even the toughest of the union crew. Megan chuckled. If my partner caught us, she'd have no problem handling all three of us in a heartbeat. This was no exaggeration. Megan's longtime companion, a truck diesel mechanic, was incredibly strong, and even the most outspoken individuals would think twice before making disrespectful remarks in her presence. With a heart of gold, she adored Megan and was more protective than a trained guard dog. Enough foreplay, Ethan. Get your tiny pencil out there and get my satellite dishes working. I need the morning NOAA maps. Hanging up, I turned on the coffee maker and headed out to start the car. As I came back in from starting my car, I flipped on the radio. It is another great day in the winter wonderland. The dumb radio jock crooned in fake enthusiasm. Wind chill will keep us down around 0 Fahrenheit, and the high for today will be around noon at almost 10 degrees. Break out the beach chairs and sunglasses. Rachel walked into the kitchen with the blanket from the bed still wrapped around her. She stifled a yawn as she reached for the coffee pot. As the DJ called Nokia's new Candy Bar 300 phone over the strains of Whitney Houston's latest song release. Rachel, go back to bed, I said, pointing at the clock, still not at the 5 a.m. point. Rachel scratched her bed hair while pouring coffee. Ethan, I am up already, and I want to go over my stuff for the church's Sunday school class today. Plus, later, the girls and I are going to do lunch after looking at bridesmaids' outfits for our wedding. While Rachel stirred her cup, I, for the millionth time, wondered what I had done to get a girl like Rachel. Even just out of bed, she was a hot babe, and I thought out of my league. Rachel was a dental assistant. We had met through mutual friends. Quickly, we led to being an item. A few months later, we were living together. A year after that, I proposed, and in a few more months, we would be married. Rachel's voice broke into my thoughts. Ethan, Ethan, are you listening to me? She was waving her hand in front of my face. Don't forget we see Sam at the pawn shop later today. He said he's got something to give you before you leave for California. Okay, Rachel. I just hope it is something warm because I just froze my nuts scraping ice off the damn car. Christ, it's 2002 already. You'd think they would have something to keep ice away that worked. Rachel put her cup down and walked over to give me a kiss on the cheek. I really appreciate you letting me keep my car in the garage, she said with a smile. She placed her hands on my waist as she unzipped her jacket, giving me a playful look. Maybe I can find a way to warm you up. We made our way to Sam's pawn shop, where a burly older man buzzed us in. Sam limped slightly as he walked around the table to greet us, and Rachel gave me her coat before running over to give him a warm hug. I stamped my feet to shake off the snow and warm up my limbs. Sam was a retired beat cop, his limp the result of a bullet wound to the hip from a botched robbery. The injury earned him a commendation, but it also ended his career on the Metro Squad. He bought the local pawn shop afterward and became well known as the guy you went to when you needed things settled quietly. He had connections with both cops and robbers. As always, Sam had a book in his hand. The man was a walking encyclopedia, and I urged him to go on a quiz show and kick some butt. Ethan, come with me, Sam said, still holding Rachel's hand. He turned to gesture at the massive bulk of a man sitting by the door. Sam employed him to keep transactions civil and keep an eye on things. Then, Sam pointed Rachel toward the jewelry display. And you, my beautiful bride, go check out some of the new shiny things we got in. I'll make you a good wedding price. Rachel squealed in glee and gave Sam another big hug. Sam, you are the best. Rachel loved coming into the pawn shop and knew Sam always kept his eye out for items she might like. I chuckled to myself as Rachel dashed to the display case while Sam's security guy, Terry, eyed her shapely figure. As I followed Sam to the back room, I said, "You do know Rachel thinks she is a master bargainer and can talk you down on price." Sam just grunted. That'll be the day atheists get insurance against acts of God. I had to laugh. Really, Sam? How did that turn out with the wedding rings? This time, Sam laughed. I must be getting soft in my old age. Besides, that was different. I let your bride get the price on the wedding rings as a wedding gift. As we reached the back room, he asked, "Tell me about this satellite thing again." Okay, Sam. Horizon Networks owns the old Hughes Aerospace, now called Horizon Communications. They are planning to launch a series of satellites to compete with cable, allowing regular people at home to watch CNN, ESPN, and other programs directly from the satellites. Sam turned back to me. Who's going to put those large dishes in their backyard? No, Sam. That's the old C-band signal. The C-band requires a large 9-foot dish. The new service is called Direct Stream TV and uses the Ku-band, so any home can receive the signal with a dish less than 2 feet in size, about the size of a bedroom window. These satellite dishes can be mounted anywhere you have a clear view of the sky. Sam smiled. And you're going to California for this? I rolled my eyes. It's an old military communications relay compound way down in Southern California, in the middle of nowhere. It will be used to pull down and uplink some Spanish-language stations from Central and South America. Sam stroked his chin. What does Rachel think of moving? I pointed at the melting snow on my shoes. What's not to like? Sun, sand, and no snow. The game plan is I go first to set up this satellite place, come back for the wedding, and then we both move down around San Diego. We will only be apart a couple of months. They set me up with a network TV station there after the satellite dish install. Sam seemed skeptical. You sure? I thought Rachel was a big skier. Yeah, I had to promise a few ski trips up north for Rachel. But hey, what can beat sex on the beach? Sam rolled his eyes. Listen to me, Ethan. Marriage isn't just for you. It's not about you. Marriage is about the person you marry. He waved his hand dismissively. Sex is sex, but sex will not make a marriage. More than 90% of women think that being a good father is a very important quality in a husband, while less than half think that being a good sexual partner is very important. Sam, it's not like Rachel and I are virgins. Today, it's not a big deal about who had what experience. Sam shook his head. Your dad and I go back to Vietnam. I promised him and your mom I would look after you. So, while we are all born ignorant, don't be one of those who works hard to remain stupid. Okay? Before I could answer, Sam pulled 2 white boxes off the shelf. What are these for? I asked. Sam looked at me and grinned. They are fax machines, you fool. The best thing since sliced bread. And no, I do not know what the best thing before sliced bread was. Handing Rachel's jacket to Sam before kneeling to look at the fax machine, I asked, "How can females carry a baby for 9 months, but can't carry a coat for 30 minutes? Sam shifted his coat to his other arm. Got these brand new, never used fax machines last week. A business went bankrupt and some of the employees got paid in office equipment. I figured you were going to need a way to send papers and documents and such when you two are apart." Standing up, I said, "Nice, Sam, nice." Sam grinned, enjoying his role as benefactor. "Not going to need these soon. I read last year where a couple of guys named Berners-Lee posted a short summary of the World Wide Web. The paper said the World Wide Web project aims to allow all links to be made to any information anywhere, posted on the alt.hypertext newsgroup. The project was started to allow scientists to share data, news, and documentation. So the fax machines will be as obsolete as carbon paper in a few years. You'll be able to get anything you need with a computer hookup." "You mean, Sam, like bulletin board systems?" Rachel is pretty computer phobic. Sam waved his hand. "Much, much simpler to use. Gonna change everything from adult entertainment to space shuttle launches." I was studying the side of the fax machine box. I hope the people working on that are smarter than the ones we got now who put Braille on drive-through bank machines. Southern California in the summer was not a prime destination spot. The tiny town near my work site was hours away from anywhere that mattered. I mentally thanked Sam every day for the fax machines because phone service in my location was spotty at best. Rachel and I ended up mostly trading fax notes like two high schoolers passing messages in class. Once we got the uplink operational, I knew I could piggyback off the beam for voice data to make free calls to Rachel from the teleport site. We had been only separated a few weeks, and while the send-off Rachel gave me before I left was still memorable, I still wanted to be together. The town was little more than a gas station that doubled as a video rental place, and the closest decent store was miles away. It seemed like the number of churches outnumbered the actual residents, who were mostly seasonal workers, local families, and people like Rufus, my landlord. Since I didn't want to drive 2 hours to the uplink site every day, Rufus had rented me his guest house, which had once served as the overseer's quarters when his grandparents lived there during a different time. Rufus was of undetermined age and caretaker of the old military relay site that had been decommissioned decades ago. As part of my rental agreement, I was expected to attend his church services every Sunday. I had been going to Catholic church every Sunday morning for as long as I could remember, but the event at Holy Gospel First Baptist was nothing like my Catholic experience. A voice with a strong Scottish accent broke into my thoughts. "Get up, you lazy scumsuckers. Lunch break is over," bellowed Shane McGregor, the project manager, crew boss, and lead engineer. "I thought you Brits had tea time?" I called back, knowing it would needle Mac, a Scottish man who despised being called British. Mac was former military and had a disdain for anything inefficient. My jabs were all in good fun. I had grown up in a military family and knew how the game was played. Mac pointed a finger at me but turned his attention to our roughneck crew, wrapping up the remains of some kind of mystery meat sandwiches I wouldn't eat on a bet. Most of the people in this town were the epitome of Southern hospitality, though I did learn that damn Yankee was one word. But as in any group, there were a few a-holes, and Red was the leader of that pack. I don't think Red owned a shirt with sleeves, and his pickup truck, flying a Confederate flag, would have made him an extra in Dukes of Hazzard. "Calm down, Mac. This ain't your boat for special service," Red said, taking his time standing up, while his like-minded buddies snickered behind him. "I have neither the time nor the crayons to explain to you about the special boat service," Mac snapped back. He turned toward me. "Ethan, I want the hard line terminated all the way to the ACU." The crew groaned. As I wiped the sweat off my brow and grabbed my tools, Red passed me by. "Now boys, look here at this damn Yankee, spent all his time in school, not like me, got street smarts." "That's so, Red?" I answered back, not looking at him. "What street would that be?" "Sesame Street. I mean, you do look like a Muppet. Were you Bert or Ernie?" Red scowled at me, but a look from Mac made him join the rest of his crew. Returning to my guest house, I was pleased to see several sheets of curled paper in the fax machine drawer. It had been Friday afternoon since I had last spoken with Rachel. This wasn't uncommon due to the bad phone service and our schedules, but what was uncommon was that I hadn't received any of Rachel's usual fax love notes, despite me sending a few to her. The cover sheet was not from Rachel's fax number, but from an unknown number back in my hometown up north. Even stranger, the fax pages contained a mugshot and an arrest report from my hometown police department, on a guy I had never heard of. I had no idea who this grimy-looking fellow was or why this was sent to my fax number. However, this wasn't the first time I had gotten a wrong fax delivery. I dropped the papers into my lap as I sat in my overstuffed chair, turning up the noisy SC unit. Is this the new junk mail? I thought, glancing at the phone. Rachel wouldn't be home for a while, so I might as well entertain myself. I began reading over the criminal report, detailing how this guy had been arrested in a drug-related shooting. The report laid out an argument over drugs gone bad, guns, and bodies. Tragically, one of the injured parties was a child. I stretched my arm as I read the next part about bail. It was $100,000 with a 10% cash bond paid by. Suddenly, the room felt ice cold, and my pulse stopped. At the bottom of the page, neatly handwritten under her typed name, was the signature of Rachel. I stared at the signature I had seen 100 times before. My stomach objected. I never made it to the bathroom. Instead, I vomited into the kitchen sink. After heaving for several minutes, I rinsed out my mouth and returned to the scattered papers on the floor. It was Rachel's signature, and the next page displayed a copy of a cashier's check from our bank. That told me exactly where our house deposit money had gone. I grabbed the phone, half-dialed Rachel's number, then stopped. There was only one person I knew who could have gotten this information. When Sam answered on the second ring, I nearly yelled into the receiver, "What the hell?" "I'm so sorry to be the messenger, Ethan." He paused for a moment, then continued. "I was hanging out at Metro PD's bullpen, bullshitting with some of the old gang Friday night when I saw Rachel at receiving. I was heading over to talk to her when they released that scumbag." Sam hesitated. "Ethan, you don't need to be a detective to know the greeting they gave each other was one of a long history together. And I don't mean like a long-lost cousin." I muttered into the phone. Silence. Then Sam spoke again. "I still have some friends on the squad, and I wish I had better news. That guy is a real piece of work, and his one phone call after booking was to Rachel." I was gripping the phone so hard my hand was going numb. I forced myself to relax. "Damn it, Sam. Why? Are you sure this isn't a relative, a cousin, or something?" Sam reflexively switched into just the facts mode, like every cop does when they're on the witness stand. "Ethan, anything is possible. However, the way that scumbag greeted Rachel wasn't anything I've ever seen at a family reunion. Unless it was on the Jerry Springer show about inbreeding." The phone felt like a snake in my hand. I can't even begin to process this, Sam. We've only been away from each other a couple of weeks. I mean, she just faxed me the damn guest list for the wedding last week. Why would Rachel do something so stupid? Sam was quiet for a moment before he finally spoke. "Listen, Ethan, you know I like Rachel. But the average woman would rather have beauty than brains because the average man can see better than he can think." Jesus Christ, Sam. I sighed. But I just cannot picture Rachel cheating on me. Silence. Then Sam spoke again. "Only Rachel has the answers for that, Ethan. But she may not know herself, or she may never tell you. And ask yourself this, do you really need or want to know why? Does it matter?" I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "Sam, I need to take a walk or something. My whole body feels like it's going to implode. I need to think about what my options are here. Okay, Ethan. But listen, if you don't know your options, you don't have any. Call me if you need anything, all right?" 2 hours and a long walk later, Rachel's voice on the phone sounded no different than when we last spoke. "Ethan, where have you been? I called 3 times. I could ask you the same thing, Rachel. I haven't heard from you since Friday. Sorry, Ethan. It's just been so crazy with wedding stuff. The girls and I went to a few halls to listen to some bands for our wedding on Friday and Saturday nights. Sunday, we had a cake tasting after brunch. See anything you liked?" "You mean bands?" Rachel giggled. "Well, nothing I'd want to bring to our wedding. You and I have different tastes in music, remember?" I smirked. Time to play my hand. I think I should call the maid of honor. She and I have the same taste in music. Hell, she introduced us at a concert you hated, remember? There was a long pause. "Oh, Ethan, I don't think she'll be able to help. She had a bad cold and couldn't hear anything." I took a deep breath. "Here we go. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let her know I hope she feels better." "Oh, sure, Ethan. I'll pass it along." "I got great news, Rachel. Remember when we loaned Sam that $1,000 to buy that gold at the pawn shop, and he turned it into $3,000? How could I forget? That brought us almost 1/3 of the way to our house down payment money. Sam is a genius. Awesome. Then Sam has a similar situation now. I need you to give him $99,000 from our house down payment account tomorrow. We should get close to double our money in about 90 days. There was hesitation before Rachel spoke. I don't know, Ethan. I wouldn't feel comfortable carrying around that much cash to the pawn shop. Not a problem, Rachel. Sam is going to have Terry, his security guy, meet you at the bank. Just get a cashier's check. I'll call the bank manager tomorrow morning. He's an old high school buddy of mine, to have everything ready. Rachel's voice was strained now. Ethan, that's almost all of our house down payment fund. That doesn't seem wise. Maybe we should talk about this some more. Rachel, can you think of a better use for our money? Silence. You don't think we can trust Sam? He's never cheated me before. I just worry. That's a lot of money. Rachel, it's rarely the things we worry about that really matter in the long run. It's not that, Ethan. It's just, I don't think I can get to the bank tomorrow. I smiled. Got her. You can't make it to the bank? What could be more important than the place we're going to live together? Our future together. Rachel started going on with some lame excuse, but I was growing weary of the game. Time to end it. Tell you what, Rachel, please hang up. I'm going to fax you over some papers that will change your mind about everything. I know it changed my mind. Before she could respond, I hung up. I thanked Sam that we had gotten one of the fax machines with internal memory, so I could just forward the fax Sam sent me instead of having to rescan everything. The phone started ringing 10 minutes later. Just to be a prick, I let it ring until the fourth ring before picking up. Rachel's voice was frantic. Oh my God. Ethan, where did you get this? Seriously, Rachel? That's your biggest concern? Where I got the fax from? Silence. Ethan, I'm just in shock. Shocked. Rachel? I can't even imagine how shocked you must be. I could almost hear the wheels turning in her head from a time zone away. Rachel tried to stammer out an excuse. It was just a quick loan to someone I know. I know I didn't talk to you about it and that was wrong, but that's all this was, really. I exhaled slowly. So your makeout session with this guy in the receiving area of the Metro PD station was a service fee for the loan. It was nothing like that, Ethan. Rachel's voice cracked. So who is this guy you were screwing? How long? And why? I demanded. I am not screwing anyone but you, Ethan. You don't even know him. It's complicated. I really don't want to go into it right now. I exclaimed loudly. Wrong answer. I decided to push harder. I have a VHS tape of the security camera queued up on my TV right now. In black and white, I can see you and your companion getting a little too close in public. Good thing you two decided to find somewhere private. If you weren't my former fiancé to be married in August and he wasn't a scumbag, I'd think the scene was pretty hot. I was bluffing hard. I had no VHS tape. But I was betting Rachel wouldn't know that. Rachel gasped. What? No. It was nothing like that. I don't know what you were looking at. But I just went along because I didn't want to create a scene there at the police station. Wait. What do you mean former fiancé? I cut her off sharply. 2 comments. Rachel. Number 1. If you were just going along with almost screwing that guy at the police station, I don't even want to know what you two did in the car after you left. Second. Rachel interrupted in panic. That's not what it was. I raised my voice over hers. Well, Rachel, I'm not done yet. Number 2, we are done. Completely finished. There was a long silence on her end. I said former fiancé because, do you think I'm going to marry someone who betrays my trust and gives away my hard-earned money to some criminal? Rachel started sobbing. Ethan, please. This is a misunderstanding. Nothing physical happened. Give me a chance to explain. We are getting married on August 24th. The hall, the church, my gown, the cake, all the arrangements. Everything is set. I was done. Rachel, you won't tell me who this person is or what is really going on. I would no more marry you than take advice from someone who led the Titanic. Rachel gasped again. But Ethan, no buts. Rachel, you chose your priorities. Keep the $10,000 you gave for your friend's bail money. Use it for the wedding expenses. We're already living in separate places, and my stuff is already in storage. So look, let's just part ways now. I took a deep breath and finished it. I'd say have a nice life, but my mom taught me not to lie, and with that, I hung up the phone and disconnected the cord from the wall. For the next few days, I was useless. Ethan, you look like hell, Max said, looking down at me as I cursed after botching another hardline termination. I feel like hell, Mac, I muttered, getting to my feet. Mac walked up to me. Of all the damn idiots on this crew, you were the last one I thought I'd have to tell to get his bloody head out of his ass. Just then, Rufus passed by. Leave him be, Mac. Poor boy's got lady troubles. Mac raised his hands to the sky. Damn birds are the devil. I rubbed dirt off my hands and replied, well, I wouldn't say she's the devil, but I've never seen her and Satan in the same room at the same time, so one never knows. Suddenly, there was a splash from the canal behind us, followed by loud cursing from Red, who was up on one leg of the tower. Mac looked at Red, then at the murky water. Mac's face flushed as he tried to control his temper. Christ's cross. Red, don't tell me you dropped another L&B feed assembly in the drink. Red hopped down onto the ground. Not my fault, Mac. Red whined. Those damn things are slippery. Mac's hands clenched as he closed his eyes. Red, that was the spare unit. Those units have a 3-month lead time. We need that one, or the whole project is going to be screwed. Red eyed the canal nervously. Mac. There could be gators in the water. I pointed at the place where I last saw the feed assembly. Shouldn't be a problem for a famous gator hunter like you. Red, weren't you just telling us about all the gator hunting you and your pappy did since before you could walk? Your family is practically part reptile. Red turned red. Back off, Yankee. He fumed. You think it's so easy? You go dive your bluebelly ass in the drink. I shrugged and started taking off my shoes. Okay, gator boy. Red came up to me as I was taking off my shirt. What do you think you're doing? Mac stepped between us. Which one of you ugly scumsuckers is going to get my damn feed assembly? Red looked at the water, then at his minions, but said nothing. I stepped out of my pants, now wearing only my boxers. Mac looked at me, then at Red. Red, either sack up or back up. Red threw up his hands. Ain't no gators in there anyway. But I ain't got no change of clothes, and I ain't getting the inside of my truck all muddy. Mac put a hand on my chest to stop me. Rufus, get me the rifle. Rufus ran into the garage and came back with an old Lee Enfield rifle. Rufus handed it to Mac, who smoothly loaded a round into the chamber. What's that for? I asked. Red clapped his hands mockingly. What, Yankee? You afraid of guns? Hell boy! Guns don't kill people. I smirked. That's so, Red? Then why do we give soldiers rifles before they go to war? Mac lifted the rifle to his shoulder with practiced ease. Just in case of gators, he muttered. Don't worry. You're too ugly to attract one. That I waded into the water, my breath catching at the sudden chill. You sure you can handle that rifle, Mac? I called over my shoulder. Mac lifted the gun smoothly. I've been making headshots at 100 meters while you were still figuring out how to zip up your pants. Ethan, just get the damn feed. I chuckled and ducked under the surface, feeling around in the murky silt for the L&B feed assembly. After a few minutes, my fingers finally brushed against metal. Got it, I shouted, lifting the mud-covered unit out of the water. But then a ripple in the water. A voice from the shore yelled in alarm. Gator. Everything stopped. A pair of hooded reptilian eyes glided silently toward me, cutting through the water like a submarine periscope. Mac's voice was eerily calm. Ethan, get your bloody ass to shore. Now. I turned, wading frantically toward the nearest bank. Behind me there was a loud splash, followed by the sharp crack of a rifle. Mac worked the bolt so fast you'd think he was firing a damn semi-automatic, not some World War II relic. I lunged onto the shore just as Red's crew hauled in the carcass of a 5-foot alligator, still twitching. I rolled onto my back, panting. Who's your gator daddy now? Red? I laughed, lifting the feed assembly over my head like a damn trophy. Red grumbled and turned away, pretending he hadn't just been terrified a few minutes ago. Mac, on the other hand, glared at me. For the love of God, Ethan, put some bloody clothes on. Just as I was pulling on my shirt, a familiar female voice rang out behind me. All you need now is a cape and a theme song. I froze. Rachel. I turned, stunned to see her standing there, dirt smeared, a cut on her arm, and her jeans torn at the knee. Mac scowled, unloading his rifle and clearing the chamber. Who the hell let her in? He muttered. Rufus narrowed his eyes. Looks like our little lady here climbed over the barbed wire fence. Rachel crossed her arms. No one was at the gate, and I wasn't going to sit there honking the horn all day. I dropped the satellite feed assembly and faced her. Rachel, what are you doing here? Rachel didn't flinch. You said you didn't want to speak by phone. So, here I am. Mac sighed and shook his head. This is all bloody sweet, but can we get back to work? Stop staring at the lass like you've never seen a woman before. He pointed at me. Ethan, take your girlfriend into the bunker and get her squared away. There's a first aid kit inside. I opened my mouth to protest, but Rufus shoved us both forward. Move it, Romeo. And for God's sake, put some pants on first. Inside the bunker, Rachel sat on a metal stool, fingering the bandage on her arm. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. All right, Rachel, what are you doing here? What part of We Are Done did you not understand? Rachel looked up at me, eyes glassy. Quit my job, loaded my car, gave away everything else, and drove nonstop here to be with you. Don't I even get a hug? I scoffed. Did you take turns driving with your jailbird lover on the way here? Or is he waiting in the car? Rachel just stared at me. Oh, sorry, Rachel. My bad. He's probably not allowed to leave the state, right? Rachel took a deep breath. Ethan, we both had history before we met. I know mine didn't interest you, but maybe I glossed over my wild years. I rolled my eyes. Let me guess. Narcotics, sex, and rock and roll? Rachel looked down at her hands. I'm not proud of it, but yeah. And a lot of those 2 years are a blur. She paused, then sighed deeply. I was with that guy for almost the whole 2 years. The only thing I don't regret is the dog he had. I blinked. Seriously, Rachel? You're leading with the dog? What was his name, Old Yeller? Spot? Rin Tin Tin? Ethan, I'm trying to explain. She snapped. She took another deep breath. One of my friends ran into him last year and gave him our number. When he called, I talked to him, but I never met him. I told him I was out of that life. We wished each other the best. I thought that was the end of it. I arched an eyebrow. How nice for you, Rachel. But I'm pretty damn sure I would have remembered if you had told me, hey. Guess who called today? My old drug dealer ex-boyfriend. Rachel bit her lip. I didn't think it mattered, Ethan. Until that night. I narrowed my eyes. What night? Rachel exhaled sharply. He called from jail. He just wanted me to go get his dog from the city pound. But the animal control people wouldn't release it to me, only to the owner. They were going to put the dog down in 3 days. I couldn't let that happen. I stared at her. So let me get this straight. You bailed him out of jail so he could pick up his damn dog? Rachel nodded slowly. Yes, Ethan. That's the truth. Nothing else happened. The event at Metro PD was as embarrassing to me as it was to you. But that's it. The next day we picked up the dog, and I haven't seen him since. I exhaled, running a hand through my hair. You never saw him again? Rachel hesitated. Then, she reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. Ethan, I revoked his bail. She handed me the envelope. There's $6,000 in here. It's what's left after court fees and covering the wedding expenses. I fingered the crisp $100 bills inside. And the dog? Rachel grinned sheepishly. I kind of kidnapped it before I pulled his bail. It's living with my maid of honor now. I tossed the envelope onto the desk. So now what, Rachel? She leaned in and touched my knee. I know there's no wedding date anymore, but I'm going to win you back. Ethan. Rachel's hand lingered on my knee, her eyes searching mine for something. Hope? Maybe? A chance? I let out a slow exhale, shaking my head. Rachel, have you seen my coworkers? You're a dental assistant. There's not exactly a booming demand for your skill set in this town. Rachel smiled softly, unfazed. I already found a job, Ethan. About 3 hours away. I'm staying with my aunt just north of San Diego. I raised an eyebrow. You moved here? Rachel nodded. I drive down every Friday. I stay the weekend. Then I drive back up Sunday night. If you'll have me, that is. I leaned back in my chair, studying her. She wasn't giving up. And then came Andrew. We were pulling down a NOAA feed off the large satellite dish when I first saw Andrew on the radar. At first, I didn't pay much attention. Even when Andrew became the first hurricane of the season, I wasn't concerned. I knew as much about hurricanes as I did about nuclear physics. Mac, being a former sailor, wasn't as relaxed. He started getting our site prepped for the worst. Red and his idiot crew, they thought it was a joke. Ain't been a big hurricane here since my grandpappy's day in the 1920s. Ethan, Red bragged, cracking open a beer. So what's your plan for Hurricane Andrew, Red? I asked. Red grinned. Same as any other night, Yankee. Get drunk. Mac shook his head, muttering. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. I decided to call the only weather expert I trusted, Megan. When she answered, she didn't sugarcoat it. Get the hell out of there, Ethan. You're going to get creamed. I scratched my head. Megan, the local weather guys are saying it'll pass right by us. Megan snorted. You want to go with the herd? 3 out of 4 people make up 75% of the population. You want my opinion? Go. Now. Fast. Far. I'd love to chat, but I need to get ready for the newscast. Keep your head down. I hung up the phone and turned to Rachel, who was laying on my bed, flipping through a magazine. You want to stay here? We're riding this thing out in the MCR bunker. Rachel shook her head. No, I better go to my aunt's place. She's alone. I know she'd feel better if I was with her. I nodded. Good call. I leaned in and gave her a kiss before she left. Megan was right. We got creamed. When we walked out of the bunker, the world was unrecognizable. Mac, Rufus, and I stood in silence, staring at the flattened landscape. Not a tree was standing. Not a house could be seen for miles. Jesus Christ, I muttered. What was the wind speed? Rufus shrugged. The anemometer was only rated for 150 miles per hour. It hit 164 miles per hour before it got ripped away. And then I saw them, a mass of people approaching from the distance. Mac and Rufus exchanged a glance. What the hell is that? I asked. Rufus sighed. Survivors. Looking for help. I had never seen anything like this, except in movies. They just kept coming. Migrant workers, school children, adults, teenagers, seniors, every age, every race. My Boy Scout first aid skills were quickly overwhelmed. Mac, however, was a machine. He organized everything: latrines, water rationing, firewood, medical care. Rufus? He knew every person staggering in. That first night was the worst. Children cried. Fires burned, illuminating the faces of the moaning injured. And then, the helicopter arrived. 18 noon. A Vietnam-era Huey circled overhead. I waved my shirt, and so did everyone else. We were 4 deep around the helicopter when the side door slid open. A group of men in suits stepped out, flashing cameras. Then, a silver-haired man in a tailored suit emerged. In a booming voice, he declared, citizens of California, I am from your government, and I am here to help. Rufus spat on the ground. Mac just groaned. The senator smiled, flashing perfect white teeth. Senator Brigham Wright, at your service. Here personally to assess the situation. Mac leaned in and muttered to me that bastard's here for a photo op. Not to help. As the senator posed for photos, a grizzled man in a flight suit emerged from the back of the helicopter. I recognized him instantly, the crew chief. He wasn't here for press. He took one look at the crowd and started handing out water bottles from the chopper. At the same time, Mac led a group of men carrying the worst of the injured toward the helicopter. The crew chief locked eyes with Mac. They exchanged a nod. And then he barked out orders: clear the decks. Toss out everything not nailed down. We got wounded coming aboard. Suitcases? Gone. Briefcases? Gone. Even the senator's fancy camera equipment got dumped into the dirt. The senator's staffer, a young blonde woman in a pristine white suit, shrieked, Stop! Stop! You can't do that. The crew chief didn't even look at her. Lady, this is my aircraft. Sit down and shut up. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. As Mac supervised loading the wounded, the blonde grabbed the pilot. General, stop that man. He can't do this without the senator's permission. The pilot barely glanced at her. Lady, I just fly this thing. Talk to the chief. The blonde stormed over to the crew chief, hands on her hips. You must get these people off the senator's transportation. We have many more stops, and we are behind schedule. The crew chief finally snapped. He pointed at himself. Me. My aircraft. Mine. I lost it, laughing. Mac shook his head. Bloody hell, Ethan. Welcome to disaster politics. The blonde staffer, who looked like she'd never been outside of an air-conditioned office, stamped her foot. You cannot just commandeer government property. This helicopter belongs to— The crew chief had enough. He jerked a thumb at the helicopter. Lady, you see that American flag on the tail? That means it belongs to the U.S. military. Not the senator. Not you. Not some D.C. bureaucrat. Me. I fly it. I say who gets on. The staffer turned bright red. Senator Wright will hear about this. The crew chief didn't flinch. Tell him to send me a fax, sweetheart. Mac, standing nearby, smirked and whispered to me, I like this guy. As the Navy crew continued loading the injured, the senator finally caught on to what was happening. Now, hold on a minute, Senator Wright barked. Rufus, who had been quiet up until now, grabbed the senator's arm and pulled him away from the cameras. Your Highness, can I have a word? The senator stiffened at Rufus' gritty demeanor but let himself be led away. The crew chief didn't waste a second. All right, move. We got room for 4 more. Let's go. I helped lift an older woman onto the chopper. Meanwhile, the blonde staffer tried one last time to stop us. This is highly irregular. We have protocols. The crew chief spun on his heel and shouted over his shoulder, ma'am. These people are dying. They're getting on the damn helicopter. If you don't like it, take it up with the ocean. The blonde sputtered, but Mac and I had to turn away to hide our grins. Just when I thought I'd seen it all, another SUV pulled up, and out stepped a young blonde in a power suit. The senator's chief aide, apparently. What the hell is going on here? She demanded. A local National Guard officer, clearly overworked and underpaid, turned to her. Who the hell are you? She huffed, flipping through a binder full of paperwork. I am Mary Sue Savantry, the senator's second undersecretary for human capital. The officer blinked. The what? I handle logistics and resource management for the senator's team. The officer just shook his head. Lady, we don't need resource management. We need water and food. She pointed at the helicopter. This is not an authorized mission. You cannot just throw out the senator's personal belongings. The crew chief stepped forward, looking utterly exhausted. Miss, do you have any medical training? No, but then go sit your government ass down somewhere and let us do our job. The National Guard officer stifled a laugh, and Mary Sue turned bright red. Mac clapped me on the back. Bloody hell, Ethan. I think we just met the most useless person in California. As the sun started setting, Mac, Rufus, the senator, and I huddled near the school bus Rufus used for his church. We have to get more people medical care, the senator finally admitted. He pointed at Rufus's bus. Can we use this? Rufus shook his head. Not enough fuel. The storm surge flooded our diesel tanks. That's why we can't get the generators running either. We stood in silence for a minute. Then, out of nowhere, Mary Sue piped up. What about those cans of motor oil and transmission fluid in the garage? Mac blinked. What? Mary Sue shifted uncomfortably. In a pre-med disaster relief course, they said diesel engines can run on motor oil, transmission fluid, booze. Mac's eyes widened. Bloody hell. She's right. He spun toward me. Ethan, grab some able-bodied men and head down to the wrecked gas station in town. Bring back anything that can catch fire, motor oil, veggie oil, hell, even moonshine. Rufus nodded grimly. There's always a still in a town like this. Who's the bootlegger? Without hesitation, he answered his own question. McGinnity. The senator clapped his hands. Let's roll. It was dark by the time Rufus drove us into town, and that's when we saw the headlights. A makeshift roadblock. Several trucks lined up across the road. Rufus slowed the bus, eyes narrowing. Then, from the shadows, Red and his crew emerged. Armed to the teeth. Well, look what we have here. Red smirked, resting a rifle on his shoulder. Mac got out first, walking up to Red like he was about to deck him. Red, what the bloody hell are you doing? We like to think of ourselves as a self-appointed law enforcement unit, Red said smugly. Keeping order in these chaotic times. We only ask for a small toll. Mac scoffed. Go take a hike, you clueless idiot. Red's smile faded. Is that any way to talk to authority? And then, out of nowhere, Red swung a punch. Connected hard, knocking Mac off balance. Mac touched his lip, then spat blood into the dirt. That punch was weak, he said. Like you've never thrown one before. Red's goons laughed, until Red whipped out his rifle and slammed the butt of it into Mac's ribs, knocking him down. That's when everything went to hell. A brawl erupted, fists flying in every direction. I don't remember much, just the chaos. Then, a shotgun blast tore through the night. Everyone froze. Rufus stood there, shotgun leveled at Red's chest. His voice was ice cold. Back off. Red hesitated, his hand wavering over his gun. You think you can take us all? Rufus smiled grimly. No need to. No matter what happens, I'm gonna shoot you as many times as I can before I go down. Red stared at him. Then slowly he dropped his gun. Rufus nodded toward the bus. Mac, get these people out of here. I'll have a little chat with these boys. Mac, clutching his ribs, pulled me toward the bus. Ethan, drive. I nodded, climbed into the driver's seat, and floored it. We had only gone a few miles when we heard the gunshots behind us. 3 loud shotgun blasts. Then nothing. I slammed the brakes. We have to go back. Mac grabbed my arm. No, Ethan. We can't help Rufus. But we can help the people he died for. I swallowed hard and kept driving. The rest of the drive was dead silent. Mac sat next to me, staring straight ahead, gripping his ribs. No one spoke. We all knew what had happened. Rufus was gone. But we had a bus full of survivors and we had a mission to get them to safety. The first faint rays of morning light touched the horizon when we finally reached a National Guard checkpoint. The troopers were overworked, underprepared, and running on fumes, but they immediately mobilized when they saw the injured. I barely had time to catch my breath before a trooper pulled me aside. You need to come with me. The checkpoint led us to a makeshift FEMA command center, set up inside a half-ruined hotel. The scene inside? Total chaos. Volunteers flooded the halls trying to cut through red tape. People argued over where supplies should go. FEMA officials ran from meeting to meeting, trying to sort out logistics while bodies piled up outside. A man in a flight jacket stood next to me, shaking his head. I got a plane full of supplies and nowhere to deliver them. Mac, still holding his ribs, grabbed him by the collar. Come with me, lad. We're going to fix that. Perry Airport, a small, private airstrip, had been turned into an emergency evacuation hub. What started as a handful of planes turned into a full-blown airlift operation. Pilots, private owners, ex-military, crop dusters, anyone with wings, came together, ferrying supplies in and flying the injured out. Churches, mosques, synagogues, even the Hare Krishnas showed up to help. The TV stations caught wind of it, and within hours, donations poured in from across the country. It was organized chaos, but it worked. And in the middle of it all, Mac, he was barking orders like he was running a damn military operation. And I was just trying to hold it together. I was helping load medical supplies when I heard the familiar voice behind me. Dean. I turned around, startled. Rachel was standing there, dirt-streaked and exhausted. Before I could react, she threw herself into my arms, knocking me backward. Oh my God. I thought you were dead. I barely caught my breath before she started kissing me, sobbing, apologizing all at once. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I made a mistake, but I came back. I want to fix this. Please, tell me there's still a chance. I exhaled slowly, pulling away. Rachel, her eyes pleaded with me. I love you, Ethan. We can still make this work. Mac walked past, muttering under his breath. Oh, for Christ's sake. Can you two do this after we save California? Rachel laughed, wiping her tears. I just shook my head. Let's finish what we started, Rachel. Then we'll talk. A lot has happened since that day. I'm not the young guy with the ponytail anymore. I'm the old man of the crew now. Mac and I still work together. He complains every day about ugly Americans, and I pretend not to listen. But we both know he'd be lost without me. One day, while nursing my broken leg after a car accident, I was scrolling through Facebook when a friend request popped up. I froze. It was Rachel. I clicked on her profile. She was single, no kids. Most of her photos were from charity missions in Central America, working with animal rescues. She looked happy. My wife, Mary Sue. Yes, the same Mary Sue who once worked for the senator, walked past, putting on her business suit. Dean, what's the worst that could happen? She teased. You fall in love with some girl who broke your heart 20 years ago, run off to a farm in Ohio, and drive a used Kia? Meanwhile, I get half your 401k, alimony, and our vacation home? She winked, kissed me on the forehead, and left for work. I stared at the screen, hovered over the friend request. Confirm or delete. I hesitated for a moment, then clicked.